Is the era of the Castro regime finally coming to a definitive end, or is this just the latest round of posturing in a decades-long standoff? The White House has just dropped a bombshell, indicting former Cuban leader Raul Castro in connection to a deadly 1996 shootdown of civilian aircraft. This isn't just a legal move, it's being viewed by experts as a potential signal that President Trump is ready to apply the same Venezuela-style pressure campaign that once pushed Nicolas Maduro to the brink. Before we continue, if you want to stay on top of everything happening in US politics, hit that subscribe button right now and leave a like. It really helps this channel grow and ensures you get the latest updates on these massive breaking stories. The federal indictment, which centers on the 1996 attack by Cuban fighter jets on two brothers to the rescue civilian planes killing 3 American citizens, has effectively put a target on Raul Castro's back. At the time of that attack, Castro was the Minister of Defense, and federal prosecutors are now holding him personally accountable. This move, however, is not happening in a vacuum. It comes as the USS Nimitz carrier strike group has been operating with a visible, intimidating presence in the Caribbean, flanked by guided missile destroyers and fighter aircraft. If this sounds familiar, that's because it's almost identical to the strategy used against Venezuela. In that case, the US began with criminal charges against Maduro's inner circle, layered on suffocating economic sanctions, and backed it up with significant military posturing. That campaign eventually led to a total shift in the balance of power, forcing the regime to open channels for American influence. The strategy isn't just relying on ships and legal filings, it's a battle for the hearts and minds of the Cuban people. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been leading a fierce public campaign, directly addressing the citizens of Cuba and stripping away the regime's long-standing excuse that the US blockade is solely responsible for their economic suffering. Rubio is painting a picture of a failed, corrupt elite enriching themselves while the island suffers through rolling blackouts and fuel shortages. It's a calculated effort to sow the seeds of a counter-revolutionary movement, aiming to convince the Cuban public that their true enemy isn't in Washington, it's in their own government buildings. But what does this mean for the future of the region? Experts are divided. Some argue that this is a final push to force the regime into either complete collapse or significant reform, especially given that the Cuban military, once considered a powerhouse of the Cold War, is now described as a shell of a shell, hampered by aging equipment and a broken economy. On the other hand, skeptics warn that a total destabilization of Cuba carries the massive risk of a refugee crisis. If the regime topples, are we looking at a repeat of the migration waves that have defined Florida's history? Interestingly, while the rhetoric is heating up, the administration is keeping a door cracked open. CIA Director John Ratcliffe recently visited Cuba to deliver a direct, no-nonsense warning: the island can no longer serve as a safe haven for foreign adversaries like China or Russia. It's a message that says, change your behavior, or face the consequences. We are seeing a multi-pronged approach: legal pressure, military intimidation, and economic reality checks. President Trump himself has signaled that he believes the pressure is already working, suggesting that direct military escalation may not even be necessary if the regime continues to weaken from within. But in the volatile world of international relations, nothing is ever truly guaranteed. So, what do you think about this? Do you believe the Trump administration has the right strategy to finally end the Castro regime, or is this just more noise that will lead to more instability in the region? Drop your opinion in the comments below. I read every single one. The stakes in the Caribbean have never been higher. Whether this leads to a democratic transition or a broader regional crisis remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: the status quo in Havana is under more pressure than it has been in decades. Stick with us, as we will be tracking every development on this story as it unfolds.